Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start our Saturday class with the prayers. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parbrahma Tasmai Shri Guru Namah. Om Bhu Bhavaswaha Tatsavetra Varenayam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Asto Ma Satyamya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya Mrityorma Amritam Gamya Om Sehna Vavtu Sehno Bhunatu Saviryam Karvavahi Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are studying in this class Yog Darshan, Rishi Patanjali's, and often people just call it Yog Sutras. So the name of the scripture is Yog Darshan. Sutra is just a style of writing. Okay. So altogether 196 sutras and divided into 4 chapters. So we are the first chapter. Name of the first chapter is Samadhi Pad. And Rishi Patanjali, he has been telling us Abhyas and Vairagya, 2 essential elements for a yogi. Abhyas and Vairagya. And last week we saw that Abhyas got to be done for a long time. How long? Until we reach there. Got to do it consistently. Got to do it lovingly. So all those elements for the Abhyas. And then we looked at verse number 15. That's where he told us about Vairagya. Lower Vairagya. He said when there's a lack of craving for the objects known by the senses, or even when it's described in the scriptures, there's a non-attachment for it, no thirst for it. That is a lower level of Vairagya. So somebody talked about it and you don't have any craving for it. He says this level of dispassion enables the yogi to gain a high degree of self-mastery. So even a upper Vairagya, practicing on it, you become a master of yourself. He says that's why this is called Vashikar. Vashikar, that is the name of it. Vashikar Sanghya Vairagya. Today let's look at the higher level of Vairagya, which is called Parvairagya. Verse number 16. Tat param purusham khyater gunnavai trishnyam. Tat means that, param means beyond, purusha, the individual soul, purush. Khyater, knowledge or recognition. Gun, attributes of the nature, the qualities are called the guns. Trishnyam, where means devoid of. Trishnyam means thirst or desires or clinging. So trishnyam is all, it's like a state of mind which is free from all forms of desires. Any kind of a desire. So altogether, this verse says the highest level of dispassion, Parvairagya, leading to self-realization, takes place when the aspirant is free from all forms of thirst, including the desire resulting from the interplay of forces of nature. And forces of nature is what? Satvik, Rajsik, Tamsik. So no thirst at all. That is a Parvairagya. Not just what you heard, what you read, but any kind. No thirst. We all know that mind is like a lake. And he said you can see your reflection through this mind, provided this lake is clear and calm. Clarity and calmness are equally important in creating an undistorted reflection. So clarity of the water or clarity of the mind depends on the absence of pollutants. Just like a outer water, the lake is calm but dirty, the reflection will be vague and blurry. On the other hand, if it's clear, but it's agitated, so no pollutants, but there's a movement, reflection will be distorted. Remember this lake of our mind. Abhyas makes this mind calm. Abhyas. And Vairagya makes it clean. So that's why both are needed. We need to make it clean also, we need to make it calm also. So twofold discipline. So methodical practice and dispassion. The mind eventually becomes so calm and transparent that it begins to receive reality as it is. It no longer has room for prejudices and preoccupations. It can clearly distinguish the real from the unreal, truth from the untruth, consciousness from the matter. This is called direct realization. Rishi Patanjali is calling it purusha, the realization of the self. Or you can call it, literally the meaning of purusha is knowledge of the purusha, knowledge of the soul. Once you know who you are, where you have come from, what the purpose of your being here is, where you are supposed to go, then you can easily set your goal. And once your goal is set, you'll be able to use your own body, your mind, your senses, or even all the worldly objects as a means to achieve that goal. It's not that we should not use what has been given to us, but more often we think that these tools are the goal. You got to remember, these are just the tools to be used to perform that ultimate goal. Only then we can live a life which is meaningful. The self-realization brought to you by your clean and calm mind will also help you to identify the milestones in life's journey. It's not here and there, but there could be several milestones along the way. You will clearly know how much of your journey you have completed and how much further you need to go. The degree of understanding destroys all fears and doubts. Because you are no longer attached to the objects, experiences. Because if you get attached to the objects or the experiences, that could be detrimental to our journey. Now what he's telling us, that at this level, the subtle forces of the nature, the three guns, which govern our personality, have become impotent for all practical purposes. Normally what we see is the sattvic forces. They are like a source of liking. We like this. We like the beauty. We like virtues. We like goodness. Sattvic. And on the other hand, tamasic, we dislike. Tamasic energy we don't like. Because tamsikta takes our mind on the opposite way. So sattvikta and the tamsikta, they are like likes and dislikes. And our mind is constantly tossed by the interplay of these two forces, sattvic and tamsic. It's almost like a whirlpool of likes and dislikes. He's telling us, when you realize who you are not tossed about. Because the self-realization gives us a realistic perspective on our life. Instead of wasting our time on likes and dislikes, we engage our entire mind and heart on attaining the purpose of life. We don't waste energy, we don't waste time. Now what happens if we keep on practicing? Keep on doing the abhyas and keep on cultivating higher and higher dispassion. Verse number 17. He says, you will attain this lower level of samadhi first. Vitarka, vichar, anand, asmitaha, rupa, anugamat, sanprajnatah. Vitarka means reasoning, argumentations, discussion. Over here, it refers to the concentration on physical object. Vitarka. Vichar, thinking. Concentration on subtle object. Anand, happiness, pleasure. And over here it refers to the joy that is derived from the deep within the senses. Not the pleasure which comes out of the objects, but you are more aware of your senses. Asmita, I amness, self-identity. Roop means form, anugamat, followed by. Sanprajnatah, the state of spiritual absorption. So it's like a lower samadhi, a process of meditation. So due to the nature of the object of focus, the first stage of spiritual absorption, known as sanprajnat samadhi, is fourfold, he says. Vitark anugat, vichar anugat, anand anugat, and asmita anugat. Because initially the mind needs an object for concentration. But within every object is a more subtle focus, and then another, and finally the subtlest of all. This is what he's telling us. Vitark, vichar, anand, asmita. So self-realization, which he described in the previous sutra, and he called it a purusha khyati, ultimate goal of a yogi. So in this process of realization, the mind is the chief means, as well as the greatest obstacle. So through mind, we can achieve this. But with the help of, if the mind is dirty and mind cannot be in control, it becomes an obstacle. So in other words, a clear and one-pointed mind allows us to see what we are. But the impure and disturbed mind blocks and distorts our inner vision. So that's why we need to make our mind one-pointed. We need to make our mind pure. First, we have to learn how to withdraw it from the external world and focus it on one object. But the average mind has formed a habit of attending to one object, and before we know, it just moves to another object. Does not know how to enjoy itself without leaning on one object. Gets bored with it and it just moves into another realm. So over here in this verse, Rishi Patanjali is telling us that all the objects known to the mind can be classified in 4 major categories. First includes the object that is a physical, can be experienced through the senses. You can take the example of a flower, a rose flower, or a lotus flower, or you can look at the divine form of your Ishta Devata, the object. As you continue practicing, your power of concentration increases and the mind stays with the image of your Ishta Devata or your Guru, or the image of a beautiful flower, whatever you have chosen. Eventually, there comes a time when the mind stays with that image for an extended period of time without interruption. During that period of time, the mind becomes clear, like a crystal, and steady. There's nothing else is happening, just only that image. So that's why this stage of one-pointedness is considered to be a state of samadhi. Lower samadhi, but it's a samadhi. Because long enough time, there's only one thing in your mind. Nothing else is happening. In a strict sense, this is not a perfect state of spiritual absorption, but it is the beginning. That's why it's called a samprajnatah. The stage of samadhi, which is called a samprajnatah, is a lower samadhi. It is a stepping stone to pure and perfect spiritual absorption. So the first stage is vitarkavicharanandasmitaroopanugamat samadhi. Because it will definitely follow by a disturbance caused by another object. You are focusing on the image of your Guru or the Ishta Devata, but very soon, sooner or later, something else will come into mind. But if you keep on doing the abhyas, the second category of objects that can be known to the mind are the form of thoughts. You can keep that image in your mind, and at the same time, you have been given a mantra, or you choose a mantra. As you are focusing on that focal point, through practice, you will also gain clarity and stability of mind. So now you are using the mantra, the thought flow. Still, it's a lower form of samadhi, but there is a thought flow now. It's not just only the object, but the thoughts are flowing. Say vichar. This particular type of thought is called vichar. Vicharanugat samadhi. You can have that absorption for some time, but sooner or later, involuntarily, you'll be pulled by another thought. Okay, if you can stay with that thought, with that mantra long enough, that's good. But eventually your thought will be moved. So vichar anugat samadhi. Then what happens is a form of joy erupts in your heart. there is a reservoir of pleasure. That pleasure which does not depend upon the external stimulus. Once it finds that pleasure within, it loses its interest in the chasing the objects and becomes steady. So it starts with meditation on joy, anand. But again, involuntarily, it gets disrupted later by the desires for an idea of other forms of joy. So this is called anand anugat samadhi. So glimpses of joy is there. You feel pleasure, you feel good about it. Then the fourth category of objects known to the mind is our pure sense of I amness. In the process of reaching spiritual absorption of this kind, you first withdraw yourself from all worldly affairs and become aware of yourself as the space occupied by your body. You focus your mind on the sense of I amness that pervades your entire body. Then constant practice, you keep on doing. And as your meditation becomes refined, you will automatically lose awareness of your body and you will become aware of your breath. You will begin to feel that you are a breathing being, because breathing is subtler than the body. Eventually, you will transcend this state of awareness and begin to feel that you are a thinking being. At some point, you will transcend that also. You are only a sense of self-existence. When you use the sense of I amness that identifies itself with the self-existence as its focal point, this is called asmita anugat samadhi. But even over here also, the spiritual absorption can be involuntarily disrupted by this sense of I amness pertaining to other objects, such as body or senses. Regardless of how the spiritual absorption is induced, we need to continue practicing. Only then we will achieve the maturity in that existence. Because ultimately, it's the maturity of the experience that enables us to stay in that state a longer period of time. It is also the maturity of the experience that enables us to get into and get out of that state voluntarily. You will sit in your meditation seat before you know that you are fully there. Because this ability is what opens the door to the highest form of samadhi, which is described in the next verse. So lower samadhi and higher samadhi. Just like he talked about the lower vairagya and the higher vairagya. So sanprajnat samadhi, 4 categories he told us. One subtler than the other. Starting from the vitarak, then vichar, then anand, then asmita. From the grosser to the subtlest, but still this is a sanprajnat samadhi. Now let's look at in verse number 18, the asamprajnat samadhi, the higher samadhi. viramapratyayabhyasapoorvah sankarashesho anyah. Viram means the end, like a coming to a halt. Viram. Pratyay, modification, cognition. Abhyas, practice. Purva, preceded by. That which existed before. Sanskar, subtle impressions of the past deeds. Okay, impressions stored in the form of memories. Sheshaha, remainder or residue. Anyah, the other. The highest state of samadhi is that where, due to the practice, all modifications of mind, including subtle impressions of all previous actions, have come to an end. So that means you're free from every limitation when you reach this highest samadhi. The self dwells in the glory of the now. So remember, twofold samadhi, lower and higher. The lower level based on the nature of the objects of focus, fourfold, which we learned in the last verse. Regardless of the focal point in the lower level of samadhi, an aspirant is aware of it, the Trinity. Trinity means the object of meditation, the process of meditation, and the self as a meditator. That is the Trinity. So therefore, if we look at it in the strictest sense, the state of spiritual absorption and aspirant is not perfectly in samadhi yet, actually. It's a sure, that's why it's called the lower stage. But in the highest level of spiritual absorption, the Trinity is left behind. The object is left behind. The process is left behind. Meditator is left behind. All modifications completely cease and the mind stands so still that even the subtle impressions of the past lying dormant in the unconscious mind no more influence the mind. The perfect stillness of mind defines this state of samadhi. Yogis of this stature have no past, no future. They live in the present. Yogi and the present are one and the same thing. This is a state of perfect freedom. Because we are bound by the past memories or the future worries. Yogi in this stature just lives in the present. That's why full freedom. Such yogis are free from all karmas and even the fruits of the karmas. In this state, they are able to see the truth in its purity and perfection. They are able to decide their destiny. They are inspired by the divine will. They may come to this world, live in the world while remaining above it. Guided by the divine will. Leave this world again. This is called freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Because coming and going is not motivated by the forces of karmas. Now the question is how to reach this state of samadhi. Because this freedom sounds so great. We all want that. But how to reach? The answer is found in the next verse. Bhavapratyayo, videhaprakritilayanam. Bhav means birth. Pratyay, modification, thought constructs. Videha, V means beyond, devoid of, deh means body. Over here, body means body consciousness. One who is not limited to the demands of the body and biological urges. That's a videha. Has a full mastery over this body, videha. Prakritilayanam, Prakriti means nature. And that means sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic forces. Laya means absorption, dissolution. So Prakriti Laya means one whose consciousness has dissolved in Prakriti. A person who has reached a state of equanimity, Prakriti Laya, or master of the Prakriti. So people belonging to the category of Videha and Prakriti Laya are born with the capacity to attain the highest level of Samadhi. So in other words, some people are born with this because they have done Abhyas before. Abhyas and Vairagya before, so they are born with it, bhavapratyayo. Who have learned to live beyond attachment to the body and mind. They travel through the world like waves that have crossed the ocean and now approach to the distant shore. Videha and Prakriti Laya. Because we know that spiritual journey is an ongoing process. The methodical practice of self-discipline and the cultivation of dispassion are at the core of this journey. As we keep getting closer to our destination, that is the self-realization, worldly snares keep loosening, and consequently, our journey on the path becomes more spontaneous and joyful. Some of us reach a point at which bodily concerns and biological urges no longer occupy our mind. When we see the body as a shadow of the mind and the mind as a shadow of the soul, our priorities shift automatically. Our attachment to the body and to the physical pleasures vanishes. While living in this world, we attain freedom from the bondage caused by identification with the body and then worldly success and failure, gain and loss, honor and insult. This is called videha. This is definitely a state of spiritual evolution at which we have transcended our body consciousness. So if we have attained that in the previous life, we are born with these qualities. But if we are not there, then we got to keep on practicing. Practicing both levels. Keep on cleaning our mind and keep on stilling our mind. But we are not yet there. Because death, the physical death of the body, puts an interruption on this journey. But then the God ensures that during the next birth, we will get everything we need to start our journey from exactly where we start. This is what is said in Bhagavad Gita, and Rishi Patanjali is saying too. Because it is about such aspirant that we hear of miracles. But there is a category of aspirant who have gone a step beyond videha also. Little higher level. Higher level means the total Prakriti also is in their control. They have mastered the art of casting off the body voluntarily, suspending their minds in the domain of nature, where they remain absorbed until a suitable body is available. Yogis of this caliber willfully and consciously allow their self-awareness to be absorbed in Prakriti, in nature. That's what's called Prakriti Laya. In other words, these yogis use Prakriti as a momentary locus for their consciousness. because nature is their mother. When disembodied, they live in her womb, and when embodied, they play in her lap. It is in the case of these yogis that we hear mind-boggling stories of spiritual achievements, undergoing sudden transformation, blessed with spiritual revelation. We think they are blessed, but they have done their homework before. To those whose consciousness is not as evolved, it may appear that these blessed ones get everything without effort. But the truth is that they have undertaken and completed spiritual disciplines that have enabled them to receive and retain what now appears to be divine grace. So we got to remember that, and we got to continue our own practice and this passion. That's why in the next verse, verse number 20, it is for people like us, aspirants like us. We have not yet reached this level of spiritual evolution. So this practice and cultivation of this passion are absolutely necessary for us. Instead of getting disheartened, we got to just do our practice the way he's telling us. Verse number 20. Shraddha, virye, samriti, samadhi, pragya, purvakam, itresham. So if we are not in the category which he mentioned in verse number 19, videha and prakriti laya, so itresham means others, like us. Shraddha. Shraddha, see, this is a compound word, by the way, Shraddha. Shraddha means that which gives you space and holds you in place. Shraddha. Dha means provides nourishment for you to grow. So that's why Shraddha means faith, trust, conviction. Shraddha. Virya, the radiant energy, the essence of the body, senses, and the mind, or the core strength. But it also means that energy that makes us shine, virya, inner strength. Samriti, retentive power, the power to recollect. Samadhi, the spiritual absorption. In Samadhi, where the mind stands still, that's Samadhi. Pragya, clear understanding, crystal clear intellect. Pragya, or it's called revealed knowledge. Purvak, preceded by or accompanied by. Itresham, in the case of others. So different from those explained in the previous sutra. Okay, so that's why I said it's for people who are not videha or prakriti laya. So he says others, those who are not born with the extraordinary abilities, also can attain the highest level of samadhi, provided their practice is accompanied by shraddha, faith, inner strength, retentive power, all-consuming focus, and clear understanding. So those who have not yet freed themselves from the attachment to the body and the mind will meet with success when they go through their practice with these 5 virtues. There are 5 of them. So in order to reach our goal, we must commit ourselves to a methodical practice. Because obstacles do come. But if we keep on practicing while keeping all this in mind, we prepare ourselves for the journey, no matter how long it takes, we will reach there. So the preparation entails cultivating these 5 virtues: conviction, inner strength, retentive power, all-consuming focus, and clear understanding. Because the obstacles, he will mention the obstacles also in the future verses for us. Obstacles could be disease, fatigue, doubt, carelessness, sloth, sensuality, misunderstanding, frustration. Because all of this, or any one of them, can make us quit the practice. So that's why right here in the first chapter, he's telling us to have these virtues. This journey is long. Journey is beautiful, but long. Just to make sure you have these virtues. So the very first virtue is, I can do it. I will do it. Have faith. Have faith in yourself. Have faith in what you are doing, the path you are walking on. Faith in God, faith in Guru. So this conviction rests on the understanding that you have been created in the image of God. And you have everything you need to realize your divine nature. Because all the limitations you have been experiencing are because you lack a self-understanding. So cultivate this conviction by reflecting on how fortunate you are. This human body with an intricate brain and a highly evolved nervous system has been given to us. We have a mind which is designed to think in a linear fashion and an intellect with the power of discrimination. At the core of our being resides the power of intelligence capable of knowing that which lies beyond the level of ordinary mind and senses. This contemplation will help us to cultivate self-respect. And then we got to have a faith in our self-endeavor. Remind yourself of the law of action and reaction. As you sow, so shall you reap. Do good, reap good. That is the law of providence. Faith in this law will help us when we don't see much result despite our hard work. So again, faith in yourself and the conviction that you can reach your goal will help you to persevere. We are going to stop here and talk about the rest of it next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Viseshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.